I gotta hang up though. I gotta hang up. I don't mind.
You know, we could always improv topics if you need to, Yasmin.
Like what? What for election day?
Anything. I'm a good talker.
No, I know you and I got that. I understand your value. I just, for certain shows, we can definitely talk in between.
Access Radio, WIAX, the future of radio and podcast. No limit to what we do.
Janelle, celebrity vocal coach right here, and I am a part of Give It Life.
And ratchet, we
And
bringing
real extra ratchet, raunchy.
That'll be everywhere, like.
Those shops is upstairs, but we down here by our awesome, man.
This nigga got hit to walk off the set.
We leave that up to Vito.
Phoenix, soul, clarity and connection through conversation. Phoenix, soul, clarity and connection through conversation.
This is Yas HURSTON, and this is Phoenix Soul, clarity and connection through conversation. And welcome today. This is our pre-election show. I think this is our also fourth show. I'm live here with DJ D Spence. What's good, DJ D Spence?
What's going on? What's going on? I'm happy to be back.
You happy to be back?
Uh-huh.
Okay. We like it when you're happy to be back. So we got some incredible guests with us today. I mean, did you do early voting, DJ D Spence, or are you on vote tomorrow?
Okay, here's the thing. I do my full research because for some reason there's not a lot of advertisement about who's going, politics. Like, I need to know details. So I will vote when I get a chance, but I need to know everything about each person.
Well, I think that's critical. And here with us today is somebody who's going to talk about the importance of voting, period. Not only just for the local elections, before the giving us a national landscape. And she's a veteran strategist and an owner of a very, very high power political impact company, DUNIA. And I want to say that she's an incredible sister and friend and a mother and a woman in power and politics. MUTHONI WAMBU KRAAL has over two decades of deep leadership experience in the political organizing field. And from her earliest days as a groundbreaking fundraiser to working for the labor movement, as well as on presidential and U.S. Senate campaigns, and then a decade of At Emily's List, the nation's largest political resource for women, she has built a legacy of relationship building, inclusive development of people, and intentional collaboration. I love that about her. She is proud to bring this level of energy, skills, and more into Dunia Political Impact, where she's recruited a diverse and agile group of strategists. And her impact continues to resonate in political circles, successful strategist mentees, coveted campaign staff, established governors, state and local leaders, and sitting members of Congress recruited and advised by MUTHONI. MUTHONI has a graduate. She's a graduate, I guess, a BA in journalism at Howard University. She's a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I know y'all saying I always invite Deltas, but Deltas are doing their thing. They do it. They make it work. So just so happens I know them, and I know the ones that are doing good things. And she's also a co-founder of Women's Democracy Lab, a space created by women of color, movers and shakers to radically reimagine political leadership through innovative projects and research. She serves on the board of Act Blue and Rock the Vote, and she's an advisory member for Sister District. She resides in Washington, D.C. with her husband, John Peter. Hi, John, and their son, Mary. Hi, Mary. Big shout out. And she takes her coffee black, and she speaks truth to politics and prioritize people, authentic relationships. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend from New York City, from Harlem, now from everywhere in the world doing her thing, MUTHONI WAMBU
Hey
KRAAL.
y'all, this is it. Now bust it. The mic will soon as I touch it.
Hey,
Hey,
yeah.
what's
So
up?
we might get
You are somewhere. You are somewhere.
Girl, I am on the campus of North Carolina Central University, one of our HBCUs. Because part of what you forgot to say in there is that I stay in these streets with you, sis, always organizing with the people. And so we're out here trying to get out the vote.
Okay, so there's a little feedback on my end. I hope you're good.
I'm good.
Okay.
I can mute when you're talking.
No, we're good. We're good. So I need to get you to give us what's the political landscape right now, like nationally, like what's at stake right now? Because everybody's like, oh yeah, maybe I'll vote, I'll think about it. But what is at stake right now? Who's up for seats, and what are you working on? So I'm going to put that all in together. You make it happen from there.
No, it's no problem. Look, I'm here in North Carolina because the Senate is one of the big things that we have at stake right now. Democrats have a very slim advantage, a very slim majority in the U.S. Senate. And I'm sure that lots of folks have heard about the U.S. Senate race in Georgia with Reverend Raphael Warnock, who, used to be in New York. He was my youth pastor and, is one of our great U.S. senators who helped us to basically take back the Senate majority in 2020. I'm sorry, I'm going to be on the move and talking all at the same time. I hope that's okay, Yasmin. But I'm here in North Carolina because we have another fantastic candidate by the name of Cheri Beasley. And for folks who have not heard about her, she was the Chief Justice for the state's court here in North Carolina. I don't think there could have been a better recruit for this seat in a state that is really a third, and where a lot of voters have decided to register as independents. Her having been a judge has given her a lot of credibility, I think, with independent voters. And so we're in a competitive race. We are against a MAGA extremist, someone who called the January 6th rioters patriots. And we're not unique. I'm in North Carolina fighting for Cheri Beasley to finally bring a Black woman's voice and to bring someone with so much credibility and so many great qualifications into the U.S. Senate. But we're running against an extremist, and so are a lot of Democrats across the country right now. I think that, one of the big things that is important for folks to understand is that even when we have heard this is the most important election of your life, I think a lot of us are starting to understand that every election is important, that the idea that voting is a one time thing has to go away. And we don't want to have to keep making it sound like a fire alarm, but there are times that are even more extreme than others. And we have never seen a time before where we have had this level, I think, in recent history anyway, let's put it that way, where we've had this level of extremism that is on the ballot, where folks who are election deniers, who have already said that they will, once they get into office, do everything they can to disempower all different kinds of groups of people from being able to vote. Our actual numbers, our actual representation is on the line. The choice that many people may sort of take for granted right now may not be a choice anymore. These people are running for important offices like Secretary of State and other offices that actually control your vote, your ballot box. And so even in New York, obviously, you have seen Democratic Governor Kathy Hochul have a big fight. Well, I've been working for a social justice organization that has really been trying to come to her aid because the conservatives are trying to demonize things like bail reform. And they are trying to make a lot of the progressive issues that we have finally, after years of y'all fighting, really made some legwork on and started to get some justice into the injustice system. And these guys and gals want to bring us back to where we were. And so, what we are looking at right now is a fight for the Senate. We're looking at a fight for the U.S. House. And again, I'm going to come back to my hometown in New York and just say, look, there are a lot of House seats that are sitting right in New York where Democrats could win or lose the majority. We could make Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, be in a position where he could possibly be the first Black Speaker of the House of Representatives, or we could find ourselves in a Democratic minority again, and with guys who are at the helm setting the agenda, who have been hostile, who have already said what they plan to do, which is run a bunch of, they can't wait to get the power so that they can start putting President Biden and other Democrats now up on these sort of false hearings, and they want to do what has legitimately been done to them. So a lot on the line in Congress, and then obviously our state and local elections. We have, again, in New York, you all know, you have a lot of critical state legislative races that are going to matter a lot. Well, you're not unique. That is true all across the country, where the issues that we care about, particularly for anybody who's been trying to get anything moving on the social justice front, they're trying to make an example of the progress that has been made and to say and scare Democrats and others who may be more moderate into never voting in a progressive way again. And so that is why righteous people better show up if we want to make sure that things like, we just had the president come out for marijuana. Sherry Beasley is here, a U.S. Senator. She's a U.S. Senate candidate who has said yes. She is a former judge, y'all, and she understands that we need to legalize. So there, and all of this is about justice.
Correct. So we have a couple of questions there. So we have about, first, just joining us, we're talking to MUTHONI WAMBU KRAAL, who is a veteran strategist, giving us a national political landscape. You are generally a little bit more energetic, and I'm hearing it in your voice that this is a need for us to really take this seriously. What is the difference that you're seeing in 2022 now versus in 2020 when it was a different energy, a different race happening?
Well, generally, midterm elections are different than presidential.
Everybody
There's a better understanding of what a president, that a presidential election feels more important to a lot of people. They know that the office of the president holds a lot of power, and there is, even more money and more resources that go into presidential elections. They are a lot more widespread and uniform in some ways. And this comes down to your state, your district, your town that you live in, because we're talking about voting up and down the ballot. And people seem to understand that we needed to get rid of Trump, that he was a threat. Although I will say that those elections, I think in 2020, were still closer than a lot of folks thought that they would be. And so we made up some ground in places where we needed to make up the numbers in a presidential map. The difference now is that we cannot have anybody believe that this isn't just as urgent as 2020. I mean, these folks have only had 2 years in office
To
so
make a
far
difference,
at the
right?
presidential level to make a
Right.
difference, and they've been held up by two Democrats who are not necessarily always voting in the way
Mhm.
that, for any of us who are looking for more progressive legislation and laws to be made, they have been there on some of those things, but not enough. And so that's why we need to create a larger Democratic majority with folks
Right.
like Sherry Beasley, and we got to bring back people like Reverend Warnock and others. We have an opportunity with Mandela Barnes to add yet another, so we could Mandela Barnes, Sherry Beasley, Val
So,
Demings. We could
so
add
I
three.
have a couple of states. So I have Colorado.
Yeah,
Is that Michael Bennett still, who is up
yeah,
for the incumbency? I have Florida, which is between the incumbent Marco Rubio and Democratic
hmm
Rep Val Demings. Is that
yeah,
correct?
yeah,
And how is that looking?
yeah. So Florida is always going to be hard, but if
Whatever
there
we
was
do.
ever a candidate who could be
Yeah.
competitive, it was going to be Congresswoman Val Demings. She was, she had a rise in her name ID around the country because of her having been on the short list for vice president and for her role
That's
in the
true.
impeachment hearings. And so she has run a powerful campaign. And it's hard to say how Florida
Sure.
will turn out
Sure.
at the end of the day. But, we do
Well,
have
for the sake
states
of our
like
listening,
Wisconsin and Pennsylvania.
right. I was going to say, for the sake of the listeners, it's Colorado, Florida, Ohio, and I know you have to go soon. New Hampshire, North Carolina, Arizona, Wisconsin, Georgia, Nevada, and like you said, the last one is Pennsylvania. So those 10 are critical. Those 10 states are
Hmm.
critical. Is that correct?
Yes.
So you in North Carolina on the campus
Hmm.
of the HBCU.
Yes.
Yes. How is that going though? I mean, is that what we normally do? We go out to these college campuses, making sure they're registered to vote home here, not just home, or like what are we doing?
Yeah.
Because I
Well,
need to come to New York to vote here. So that's what I'm saying. Like, what's going on with that? Like
we
the
have
resources.
generally said, first of all, you got to vote. And right now, we're out here for Sherry. So we are very
Sure,
specifically
sure.
focused on those who are registered in North Carolina because tomorrow is the day. I hope that the folks, in New York, were able to get the message out to the students that are elsewhere.
Sure, sure.
And but it's been awesome. I mean, I have seen, especially the Greeks have really been showing up in their
Sure.
individual capacities, but really organizing these strolls to the poll. And there are campus leaders that have been doing their thing. But
Hmm.
it's not easy breaking through in these midterm elections, I have to
Very
say.
difficult. Mhm.
And yeah, and so, I've learned a lot
Yeah.
being on
Is that right?
Chief Justice Beasley's campaign every time. Don't we
So
learn
in
every time,
closing,
yes?
first of all,
Yeah.
thank you. But in closing, what is the message that we want to tell some folks who hasn't decided or who are ambivalent, who need to know the importance of voting? We do this every year, which is very important, but there's always a new generation that comes on board. What would be your
Yeah.
closing message for that?
My closing message is pick an issue that you love. Pick an issue that you care about. Pick an issue that you're pissed about. Pick an issue or a person. Pick something and make a decision that you're going to be involved and that no one is going to make a decision for you. And so, even if it is that singular thing that is starting to drive your interest in saying that you are going to engage and not give away your vote by doing nothing at all, that is important. And the best thing that you can do for yourself is make a plan for tomorrow. Go to iwillvote.com, iwillvote.com. You can look up by your zip code where your polling station is going to be, and you can see if you are registered to vote. And I have to say to you, there's so much about ourselves,
Say that
for
last
any of
part
us
again.
who just,
We lost you. Say that last part. You have to say.
there's so much more about voting that is a lot more than ourselves. And I always want to remind us that it is important to think and act outside of just yourself. It is important to have a community mindset. It is important, even when I didn't have a kid, I did not only think about the importance of what kids needed based on whether or not I had one. So it is important that we show up, especially if we have the physical and mental capability to do so, because it is a blessing to have that, and to try and to get some other folks with you. People feel empowered when they go and vote. You may underestimate it like you underestimate how good you'll feel at a family reunion, but you suddenly realize that was really great. So I say all of that to say, Yasmin, thank you so much
Oh
for
no,
this
thank you.
platform.
Thank you for
I
that.
didn't realize I was starting to lose my voice, but I think I am.
Well, that's all right. That's all right. That
Because
means
we've
you've
been
been
hitting
doing
it.
it. You've been talking a lot. But
Yeah.
Thoni Wambu Crawl, thank you so much for coming on the
Thank you.
show. Phoenix Soul is much more better because you've been on it, and we really
You're amazing.
appreciate your vibe. And you're amazing. And I look forward to hearing from you Tuesday night or Wednesday early in the morning.
You will. I know you'll be watching the returns.
We will.
All right. Take care.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Bye, y'all.
All right, you're listening to Phoenix Soul, and we'll be right back. Some other great guests coming on. DJ D Fitz, take us out. All right. T-Real.
Nobody move, there's blood on the floor. And I can't find my heart. Where did it go? Did I leave it in the cold? So please give it back, cause it's not yours to take. It must have fell when I lost my mind. Deep in the cup, drowning in it, pain. Somebody help, cause I can't find my way. Nobody move, nobody move.
about you makes my life complete. And what I mean by that my whole world changes. You make me feel things that I never felt. I wanna kiss you, kissing you is all that I can take. Love, kissing you is oh yeah. I wanna kiss you, kissing you is all that I can take. Love, kissing you is with my friends, I'm trying to figure out a way to leave her behind, just to get back to you. This can see my lady. Don't think I'm sleeping looking at you. All of them wishing they could have you. And that's a matter of fact. A bunch of them itching for you to scratch them. I'm trying to holler with me. I'm trying to come with the rain. And I'm gonna take it no, 'cause I want them to know you're my lady. Yeah, you're my lady. You're my lady. My diva, my diva, lady.
Phoenix Soul. Clarity and connection through conversation. Phoenix Soul. Clarity and connection through conversation.
Big shout out to TC Worldwide, aka my firstborn, for that incredible production music. You're listening to Yaz Cornelius at Phoenix Soul, and thank you so much, DJ D Spence. That was an awesome mix.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
Thank you so much. And if you want to call us, you can call us at 929-560-9646. That's 929-560-9646. There was a little
mosquito.
Mosquito.
Yeah, I saw it.
That's all right. Thank you. You know how we are sometimes. We see, but nothing's putting us off our game. It's all love. I want to take the time to first say thank you to MUTHONI. She stopped in the midst. Anybody knows what campaign life is like. The night before an election is usually one of the busiest, if not the busiest night than election day itself, because it's just preparing for an election site. So she stopped. She took the time and stopped. Was on the NCCU's campus. And she rocked. So thank you so much again, MUTHONI, for joining us. But I just have a wonderful guest here. We're going to move forward. I think we talked about the show was going to be pre-election show, but part of our election process is understanding, yes, what's happening in the elections, what's also understanding national and locally, but also the new form of civil rights, I think, for many people is economic empowerment, entrepreneurship. And with us, we have a brother who is the founder and CEO of a company called by the name of Black Cotton Incorporated. It's an apparel and wellness lifestyle brand based in Harlem, New York City. Big shout out. Black Cotton has successfully resonated with the marketplace by curating unique activations that are designed to have positive impacts on communities and being intentional about empowerment that moves the culture forward. They produce limited edition apparel and are currently onboarding into the wellness and personal care market in 2023 with the launch of a new product line. And we're happy to be joined with us with Mr. Robert DUPREME EATMAN. He was born and raised in Brooklyn. At 19, he began his professional career in the financial services industry for over 20 years. And Mr. DUPREME, DUPREME is what we're going to call him. DUPREME has worked at some of the top global wealth management, investment banking, and brokerage firms that pretty much primes him to be in the place that he is today. Brothers and sisters, I would like to give you Robert DUPREME EATMAN, founder and CEO of Black Cotton Inc. So, hi DUPREME.
Hello, hi, HURSTON. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful for having this opportunity to vibe with you. I hope this is the first of many shows that I get invited to.
I hope so. I hope so. And it's Yaz. Feel free. Don't. I think that we're cool enough for you to call that. So why don't we just talk a little bit about you and what the significance? I love the title or the interesting way that you pose it, curating unique activations that are designed to have positive impacts on communities and being intentional about empowerment. I love that. Like what was the thought process of that?
Well, the show, or rather the brand itself, Black Cotton. I've done a lot of things for a lot of people for a long time over the years, and throughout my career, I always sought ways to just have a voice where I could speak for those who didn't have a voice for themselves. Coupled with my love for fashion, politics, and all things positive for the culture. And it was only a matter of time. I mean, I've had several iterations in terms of business and doing projects. And once Black Cotton came to mind, and that's COTTEN, Black Cotton, COTTEN, you know.
Was that spelled that way because for trademark purposes?
Yeah, somebody else had that.
Oh, someone had the other one.
It's that simple. And the other company that has it, they're agricultural people.
Sure, makes sense.
They're good people. So there's enough room for all of us to eat.
Sure.
I believe in the abundant mindset. And so what the company is designed to do is more than just an apparel and lifestyle brand. What we've been intentional about is having activations and events with our consumers, and have those activations be a meaningful event, and using those activations to communicate with our community and our culture. So Black Cotton represents, it's not just about being fly, although that's what's up.
That's what's up.
But it's about empowering people. It's about using the universal language of fashion and style, and to communicate with people, a mindset. So the idea is when you wear a Black Cotton garment or any of our products, it's a real person behind that. It's a person that puts his designs into it. I do all the design, everything, in that regard, and it's a way to have a positive impact on our culture. So I stand on that.
So you said that you had made so much money for other people, and then so I guess you just decided to make this happen. Collaborating with the idea of doing economic development as well as empowering your people. What would you say to someone who's looking to also do the same thing, start their own business in fashion, while they've been doing so much work for others for quite some time?
Well, I would caution everyone. It's a very, very lonely journey.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's a very lonely journey, and it's lonely in the aspect of not being alone. But when any creative, you have to discard any doubt, and you have to first, before you begin, have a visualization of where you want to go, and spend a lot of time on developing your vision, because that will give you the tools that you need to navigate the challenges that are going to be before you. Birthing a brand, like a real brand from the ground up, is very challenging. And not everyone has that skill set, but your vision will help you attract the team that you need to deploy your vision.
And when was this founded?
Black Cotton was founded in 2020.
Okay.
In the midst of the pandemic. I used that time just basically to pause, like everyone did.
Reset, right?
Yeah, reset and really focus on what it was that was on my mind. And Black Cotton just encompassed so much of everything. I was able to put everything under one umbrella. And the strategy was to roll out with the apparel first, of course, and then go from there. So yeah, 2020, and we really started selling live probably at the end of 2020.
Okay. Well, with such intentional efforts, what have you used this platform to shape other things or other concepts or ideas? Have you used this to do other things?
Well, we've been partnering with communities, block associations,
Mhm.
where we do events, curated events, where we bring out young people, and we engage them in learning activities, and we walk away with we walk away with lessons because young people, I think, resonate to people in real life. And
That's true.
we had an event during the summer, right on 125th Street, right around the corner from Setapani. Shout out to Setapani and the whole 120 crew over there. Whereby at the end of the event, it found me being chased down by about 20 kids in a balloon fight. I took one for the team, and there were about 15 kids. It's on my it's on my Instagram.
Wow.
And I don't think those kids realized how quick I was.
Oh.
I really don't think. I thought
okay.
they were just gonna come and
So you kind of like,
yeah, oh yeah. A couple of them, and they fell to the ground. But at the end, yeah, they got me.
So you being a OG now, right? But being able to dodge balloons, where do you think we are in the state of our community? I mean, you touched a couple of issues when we talked before that there's some things that's just on your mind, and so what what is it that you think that you can share to those young people or just folks that that just probably need to listen to some real talk? Like, what do you think that message would be?
Well, I think that right now, so to answer that question, I think let me frame it first. I think that at this time in our history, we are in what I call a digisphere civil war, so to speak, where the last, I guess, 20 years, there's been a steady drip of propaganda, a steady drip of misleading information that has come out, on social media, be it Instagram, be it YouTube, et cetera, et cetera. I think a lot of people have learned how to deploy propaganda in a way that polarizes us, and it's just been a steady drip. You see these finely produced uh, uh, videos on YouTube. You got the news desk, et cetera, and people find themselves taking in this information without vetting it. And I think for young people, our goal is to give them the tools they need to navigate through this digisphere, so to speak, and know what's truthful information and when they're being manipulated. And it's so
So
clever.
hard, so hard. How do you do that?
Well, you do it twofold. Now, I did a lot of work with an organization called Wheelchairs Against Gun Violence, and so
Yeah.
what I've learned in doing that, and what that is, we go into at-risk schools. We go talk to at-risk youth, and these young kids come from some very difficult beginnings, so to speak, and so they are accustomed to gun violence. They are accustomed to resolving their issues in gunfire. So what we do is we give them tools to de-escalate the situation, and we give them problem-solving skills and conflict resolution skills so that they can begin to um, not use their anger to kill each other. Basically, like it's a real thing. And part of that
It is a real
process,
thing.
yeah, part of that process is really listening to young people. I think when you approach young people, we have to approach as listeners versus trying to immediately chastise them. And I think if you listen and you approach them with love, they resonate. They resonate. And one of the tools I use, I have images by a famed photographer, Jamel Shabazz, who has basically documented my life from when I was about 13 years old. And I can show them these images of me being on the subway and the graffiti in the background and the hoodie and the sheepskins and all of that. When you show them that, young people, that image, they say, okay, I can relate to this guy. Versus some of us who like to do a lot of pontification on the news circuit. You see them on all the shows and everybody's talking about the problem. we have to pay attention to those like myself and my company, Black Cotton, who are actually in the community with our sleeves rolled back, doing the work. And so that's where we need to be focused on, actually doing the work.
Okay, so in doing the work, I and speaking to young people, do you feel like in your interaction with them or when you first start the encounter, do you feel that um, they feel like they're alone, that they don't have anyone to support them?
That's interesting. There's so many stories. All of them have different stories, and if I were to have a one underlying uh, theme, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
I would just say that young people, we bring them into the world, and we expect them to figure it out on their own.
Mm-hmm.
I think from an early age, a child has to be directed. And I don't think that you have to be wealthy. I don't think, I think it's just a matter of understanding that, especially like from 1 to about 8 years old, like that's a unique time because kids look up to their parents or their elders as superheroes,
That's
right?
exactly right.
And so that's the unique time. Instead of doing the goo goo and the gaga and the baby talking, instead of dressing them up like teenagers and things of that nature, I think we need to really empower them with critical thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Encourage them to look around at the world around them and encourage them to explore their wonderment for the world, and ask them questions and get feedback from them. And when you get feedback from them, that's your opportunity to impart on them certain skills. So as far as lonely, yeah, a lot of kids definitely these days, because they're raised on the internet. They don't go outside, and little boys don't play with worms and build go karts, and you just don't see kids outside being kids anymore.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah, you can see a team of kids, like you can see 13 kids together, and all of them will be on their cell phones.
Right.
Like a cluster of kids, and everybody's on looking down at their cell phone, and so that is going to breed loneliness.
Mm.
And after the 2009 global economic crisis, when people went back to work, a lot of parents that were at home, now they're going back to work. They're spending less time away from home, and the kids are at home to raise themselves. So who's going to raise them? And then you had the advent of social media. So these kids literally were raising themselves from that toxic content that I spoke about earlier. And so those lessons that need to be told at home weren't being, the parents were in the house. They were making money. They were doing what they got to do to pay the bills. And I think that left a void for a lot of these young people.
And so your role right now with Black Cotton and then your team, how do you think you are making an effort? And I want to talk a little bit further about economic development, but how do you think you're making impact in these communities that you're working in?
Well,
have you seen an impact yet?
Yeah, well, we're having an impact based on the feedback. I mean, it's one thing to do a thing, but you ultimately can measure your success by the feedback that you're getting, by the stories that are being told. So what we're hearing, and we're still in this process, we're still learning and we're still developing what we're doing, and the feedback has been phenomenal.
Like, give me an idea of what the feedback has been.
Well, you'll hear a child will, after you do an activation, we call them activations and or event, weeks later, you'll see that same kid and they'll tell a story like, you inspired me, and now I'm pursuing fashion.
That's
or
awesome.
I'm pursuing technology, whatever it is that they are that they want to pursue. You kind of give them a formula and a template for them to pursue that, and so that is the type of impact. And we'll be coming up with some other ways to have to measure like our impact statistically. So that's down the line.
So you also have experience in the entertainment industry, specifically music and publishing, and like you said, fashion already. There seems to be quite of an influence, and we recently lost Takeoff. I mean, it's just been really sad on how we're losing some of our artists, our creatives, and then even the technological lynchings that we may be seeing with Kyrie or Kanye. I mean, I can't keep up. So you could tell me, but I can't keep up with what's going on and who said what the latest. Who should have known better. I don't know that, but your thoughts on the entertainment industry today? Uh, Go ahead, go for it.
I think this. I was thinking about this the other day, and I hear people are frustrated, people are angry. You got people on both sides of the aisle, so to speak. And I think that what we need to realize is that we don't have an inalienable right when it comes to social media. Like Twitter, et cetera, like that's not in the Constitution. For us to have, those
Your
are
freedom
private,
of speech.
right? Quote unquote
Your
freedom
freedom
of
of
speech,
speeches and
right? And I think a lot of people, especially young people, they don't know any better because as far as they're concerned, this is how they've been able to express themselves. So I think that creates a lot of frustration. And I think in the case of Kyrie, I'll say this. I believe that he should have been afforded more time to respond to the initial post game. After you play basketball, you have a professional athlete, and you're asking him these complex questions and expecting him to, be at 100% in terms of how he's going to respond. I would have hoped that he had a team around him that would have, just told him, look, I get that you guys are interested. Right now, I'm not going to answer on this, but we will be following up and responding to this. And you just played a game. I think they lost that game, and I was watching.
That's a lot that goes into
that's
that.
a lot.
Right.
Yeah,
First,
he's 30 years
losing the
old.
game.
Like who's really like skilled at dealing with the press? Because think about it, the press. What does that mean? They put pressure on us.
Right.
And so I think the way it was handled led to what we.
I mean, you
today.
talking on the press, but okay.
Yeah. Well, right. I mean, yeah.
Press, right.
So I choose to use the power of media in a certain way. Yeah, I choose. We have ways that we could do it, and I think that.
So is that lacking a team to support the talent these days, or having?
Obviously, obviously, like our advisors that we have around us, people got to get prepped before they go to the media, so they can figure out how to represent themselves the way they want to represent themselves without it going left or going in the direction that I'm sure he was. As far as the deaths go, rest in peace to Takeoff. I was particularly disturbed by losing Nipsey, and I didn't listen to his music, but I always liked him as an individual based on the way he spoke. Like that was my connection to him. And then, after he passed and I began listening to his body of work, like that's my soundtrack.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's my life, just growing up in Brooklyn and meeting all the I'm a kid from Brooklyn. I end up working in financial services. I'm wearing Brooks Brothers suits and Wallach suits at 19 years old. I'm coming off the streets of Brooklyn. I'm competing with well-educated people from the best schools in the world, and yet I managed to survive and thrive and figure some things out.
Well, congratulations to you on that.
Thank you. And so it's really troublesome the state that we're in. I'm still figuring it out, how to have an impact, and hopefully soon I can gather and have a council of men around me. We're gonna tackle this. We're gonna begin the conversation.
Council of men.
Yeah.
So I think that's very critical. That people understand their roles and everything. What do you think the role of the man is in all of this?
Oh boy. All right.
No, not negative.
No, it's not
it's
negative. It's
about time y'all stepped up. So go ahead.
Well. One of the things that we're finding, myself and JD. Shout out to JD, my EVP. One who's been like just tremendously.
Hey,
JD, Jonathan Davis.
What's going on?
Yeah. Shout out to JD. One of the things that we've learned, like we didn't realize how much of a lack of male leadership is out there. Like I had no clue because a lot of these events that we do, it's all women there. Like you don't see any men around. You don't see any strong heterosexual males around. And that was astonished that it's really, I didn't realize that. So I think as a man, I think, we have to provide leadership in the form of helping people understand, helping people trust us that we have their best interests at hand, and that trust allows us to, go out and do what we do. And it's just like in a marriage, like a woman wants to know that the man she chose, has the ability to act in their best interest. Whatever the relationship is, they know that this man operates under a code of ethics, and that he knows how to execute and deliver. It's not easy, but there is definitely a lack of black male leadership in our communities.
So, why do you think that is? Because I think in the '60s and the '70s and even the '80s, there was some men. I mean, some of them martyrs, right? I get that.
Hmm.
But there were a few. And why do you think that number has diminished? Because there's still men around, but I don't know if they've all decided to take on that role. But
Well, I think historically speaking, like I said in the piece that I'm working on, the Digisphere Civil War, I think it's been
now, what is that piece you keep
well,
saying?
that is just saying that there's a lot of like in the Digisphere. Now, the Digisphere includes all things. You can Google the word Digisphere, and I contend that there's a civil war going on, and I think sooner or later that Digisphere civil war is going to manifest itself in real life in violence. Seeing people show up at politicians' homes and beating their husbands up with hammers, and people being at the polls with guns, thinking that they're doing their patriotic duty. Imagine going to the poll and you see some guy there with a high-powered weapon, and you're going to vote, and they're convinced that it's their duty to quote unquote watch the poll. And so I think the mindset like that, and then people being comfortable. A lot of guys get comfortable. They get their education, they get their great jobs, they move away, and it's no longer really their problem, so to speak, and they get a little too comfortable, and they lose that fire and that zest. So I think that's part of it, and I think a lot of it is our intentional efforts to just dismantle black heads of households, male black heads of households. And it's coming in all directions, and it's just too much for us to even discuss in this small period of time that we have. But rather than focus on that part, I'd rather focus on the other part, which is, bringing out the gentleman that I have in my life. I am my brother's keeper. And so these are the things that we talk about. You don't see guys like me on reality shows. You'll never see guys like me on reality shows. And so that's what we're working on, to have more of a presence and more of an impact, and utilizing
Why do you say that you would never see you on a reality show? What's
well,
the
because
implication of saying that?
the reason is because the decision makers, people that decide to put these quote unquote reality shows, they're out of touch with reality, and they think that there's not a market for guys like me. They think that there's no They think that nobody will watch the show, and I'm here to say that is not true. And I think they didn't get the memo yet. But I think, myself and my brothers throughout the country, I got relationships from here to California. And they're a team of us, and we all in the community doing this work. And so rather than rely on reality shows to come to us, we've got to create our own reality shows, and just like have our voices heard. Make people click to us on the channel.
No, I think that that's important, and I'm really glad to hear that. What's the plan for the next 5 years? If you've thought about that.
Oh, wow. Well, for the company, well, our first things is, we had to figure some things out. Like when you're in business, you have to pivot so many different ways. Like you just never know how your product or service is going to be received, and you got to take, it's pace. You got to figure out. You got to, you're gonna experiment with some things. You got to be ready to pivot. But once you have, that's what I talked about earlier, having your vision. Once you have your vision, you have all your answers. And to execute that vision, different things are going to come up. You're going to have different challenges. So you got to know how to pivot, recover, and stay focused. And so for the next 5 years, I mean, shoot, by 5 years by now, Black Cotton should be a household name, comparable to these other designers that have no vested interest in our community or our well-being. Yet people go out and buy these things because they want to fill a void. It's like, oh, I got this brand or that brand. People are gonna think I got money. People are gonna think I have success, and they don't even know the history of these companies. Not gonna even get into that part. But if we do our job, Black Cotton will become a household name. Not only a household name in terms of our product, but a mind state of us coming together as a people and enabling each other to make money and create an economic system whereby we don't have to rely on other people. That's the goal.
I saw in your tagline you did when you sent me your information the phrase I stand by tell your own narrative right here, but I see your tagline own your narrative. What
Yeah.
does that mean?
Well, owning your narrative it's about owning our own narratives, telling our own stories, not allowing people to tell our stories. I keep hearing everybody tell our story, but us. And own your narrative. It's broad and it's personal at the same time. And so that's what we got to seek to do. Like we can empower ourselves by owning our narratives and telling our stories. So I challenge everybody out there, like own your narrative. Don't run away from your truth. Embrace your truth, and use that to your advantage. Because the lessons that you learn from the challenges that you've gone through and that you face offer value to other people. You can give somebody a template by saying, yeah, I went through this. This is how I handled it. This is what I've learned. And then collectively, those lessons become the blueprint for the restoration of us as a people. That's what it becomes. So I want people to own their narratives.
So important for that. You find certainly those that are in the entertainment industry where they rely wholly on other folks to tell their story and to get their turn. So thank you for that clarity on that. The other thing I just also wanted to touch on with you is your thought process of empowering people through your fashion. How has this business been going for I guess since 2020? I know I've seen an emergence of black cotton products, different places that I go. And like I said to you before, when I met you, I was like, I didn't even know you were the CEO. You were like, that's what I want. Thank you.
Yeah.
But how's that been going? You being like the CEO of this new emerging company.
Well. For me, it's not ego. Like I know everybody's an entrepreneur these days.
Sure.
Everybody's, I'm an entrepreneur. Right? It's popular. I've been doing this entrepreneur thing since I was a kid, and it was just a matter of time before something happened where I could say, this is it. And I don't want to get caught up in saying, you'll never hear me say I'm the boss.
Sure.
You'll never hear me use that I don't speak like that because that's not my mission. Before Black Cotton, I worked in the community out in Coney Island. Like kids when they were little, and I have these clips there, they're hilarious. But it's for me, being able to just demonstrate, let your work speak for you. And when you see people wearing black cotton, that's the result of hard work. It wasn't the result of me calling up any of my celebrity friends and saying, here, wear this.
Right.
Like that would be, like you're telling somebody to wear it, and then you have a personality wear it, and next thing you know, you got a whole bunch of sales. Do you have the infrastructure in place to facilitate that increase in volume? That's a good question. Like you get a person wearing it, and now what? Now you got 100,000 sales, and you didn't even do your work to understand what it takes to produce that. You haven't tested anything out. You haven't learned from your mistakes, etc., etc. So we were very intentional about building it from the ground up. Very, very intentional about building it from the ground up. And Harlem, shout out to Harlem.
Shout out to Harlem.
Shout out to Harlem. Shout out to BK.
We definitely
born and raised.
How to support. How to support.
Coney Island, the whole.
So you're based in. No, I wasn't saying it for you to do everybody. I was just saying it for.
She want to stick to
I
Harlem.
just being clear. But you're based in Harlem, right?
Yes.
And you said that you're coming out with a new product. I don't know if you're willing to share that, but you seem to have evolved.
Yeah. Well, we're coming out with a new line of products.
Okay, that's
cool. We're moving into the health and wellness market.
Okay.
And one of the things that I've learned in being in the community is like mental health and mental health is very important. And this happens to be a Men's Health Month, right? Right, Movember. We're not supposed to shave, right? Get on board. But one thing that stands out is mental health, and I think wellness and personal care are part of, So now we're putting out some products, and we're gonna have a Black Cotton experience. First, we're rolling out with the ladies because you guys are the backbone. You are our healers, et cetera, et cetera. And so we want to create an experience whereby we got you. We got your whole experience. We got your whole, when you come home from a hard day of work or after you've been spending time with the kids and doing what you do, we want to take you to a place, a relaxation, rejuvenation, and resetting. And we want to tap into that and have products that help you do that. So that's where we're going. So stay tuned. And so we're rolling out. I'm excited.
So it's
about
not a bottle of gin. That's not it. Oh, okay.
It's a bottle of gin to do it. Yeah,
I could do it too.
Yeah. We can, yeah.
But okay.
It's a vodka we're coming
okay.
out. No. It's like
no. I mean, we can wait.
Yeah. So we're looking at, and of course you will have exclusive products.
Oh, you're so kind. Big shout out. iAccess Radio is here.
Yeah, shout
All right,
out to
Wiz, we love you. Peace and love.
And I'll be back up here hopefully to talk about that when we're ready to roll out.
Absolutely. We would love for you to come back and talk about that. Any closing remarks? It was so good, Dupreme, to have you come on the show. This is the beginning, as you can understand. This is our fourth show, and so having you on as a trailblazer in our communities is an honor. Are there any closing remarks that you want to share with our listening audience?
Well, I want to give a shout out to my man JD. Shout out to Shawana. Shout out to my daughter. Shout out to all my loved ones. And I appreciate you guys for being on this journey with me. And it's a lot of hard work, and just seeing people be happy and satisfied, knowing that we have impact is very fulfilling. And so our IG is Black Cotton, COTTEN _. Our website is www.blackcotton, COTTEN. We're on Clubhouse, Twitter. We're Black Cotton. Remember, it's COTTEN. So we're on all social media platforms.
Not ON, EN.
Yeah, EN, Black COTTEN. And so right now we come to our website, shout us out, come to our IG, shout us out, and we're building. We're in the process of building, and all you guys have an opportunity to participate in our growth. Like, let's grow together, let's build together, let's all do it together. Everybody can eat. And economic empowerment is very important. Like,
it seems like kids, you're an example for that.
Yeah, thank you. Teaching our kids how to get to that bag at an early age is extremely important. And sustainability. We want to make our products, everything that we do, we want to do it in a green way and reduce our our carbon footprint.
Your carbon footprint.
Yeah.
So that's excellent. Is there anything that we can see on your website for young people if a parent wanted to learn more about what you're doing?
Well, we have our mission statement on our website. You can click to contact us on our website.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and you can definitely always DM us. Just send a DM. It doesn't have to be anything.
So at Black Cotton with the EN _ they can DM you to find out what services or programs you're doing.
And if you want to offer some services, if you're interested in partnering with us, by all means, just reach out. I mean, that's where it begins. The communication is there. We're gonna do what we do, but we want the input of those that have a vested interest in having positive impact on our culture.
Well, Robert Dupreme EATMAN, thank you so much. BlackCotton.com. You should go there, learn more about them. Thank you for making our fashion experience much more better by adding this new company.
Thank you.
us.
I appreciate that.
DJ.
Thank you. Here we go. I can't dance. I'm holding the phone, but if I could, I would do a little dance.
Really?
a little dance.
Well, okay. We can hold the phone for you.
No, not this time. Not next
okay,
time.
You sure?
Next time we do a dance.
Okay.
We do a dance next time.
All right. Well, we'll be right back. You listen to Phoenix Soul. Excellent interview. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
I'd say something because if I don't say nothing, you could be doing.
Phoenix, soul, clarity and connection through conversation. Phoenix, soul, clarity and connection through conversation.
Welcome back
I mean,
to Phoenix Soul. This is Yaz Hurston. If you are just joining us, please feel free to call us. You should call us. Clarity and connection through conversation. Conversation. So 929-560-9646. Thank you, DJ D Spence.
No problem. That was fun.
I tell you, man, water and gum.
that's what I'm doing. I'm old. Oh yeah, I'm not gonna catch me.
Well, let me just kind of read who you are first, before.
Okay.
So I want to just say, like I said, today is the pre-election show, and my background. I don't even think we ever talked about my background on the show, so I don't talk about it now. I'm just saying, like, that'll probably be like a bio or something. But my background is in politics and government, and so I'm just pleased to have with me a former colleague of mine in politics and government, Corey Ortega. He's now the Senior Director of Government Relations for HZQ Consulting. He leads their government relations and external activities with labor, nonprofits, businesses, lobbyists, and political campaigns. Corey also participates in developing and delivering public affairs strategies and tactics from major initiatives, programs, and projects. So, why this is important? He got to this place. He was the director of government affairs and advocacy. Uh, Before joining HZQ, he was with the New York City COVID Coalition. He led high profile engagements and field campaigns to raise awareness about community health programs, government operations, and legislation. He also developed and led advocacy and legislative campaigns, including a campaign that passed the Racial Impact Study Bill, statewide campaign and lawsuit to block ballot petitioning due to COVID 19, and a bilingual outreach campaign connecting local residents to the Get Food NYC emergency program. Food insecurity was definitely a big deal for us. So he was also executive director of the New York City Council Black, Latino, and Asian Caucus. He worked with council members of the caucus to. I got to see all these things so people know my guests come with like flair and swag. Um, he helped organize, execute legislative and budget agendas, and amplified existing agendas of entrance to the Black, Latino, and Asian caucus. Corey also worked collaboratively with legislators and government agencies and other stakeholders to support these priorities. He helped organize rallies, including the EMS annual rally for fair wages for EMS employees. I'm just so impressed with you, Corey, and I just want to say thank you for your work. I remember you got your start as a special assistant to the New York State Assemblymember Keith L.T. Wright.
Shout out Team Wright.
And in that office, you address housing, labor, and quality of life. And I also just want to say a big shout out to Danielle, your wife. You're also a husband. But you just always been a strong person in your beliefs. Highly represented from Dominican Republic, right? That's your thing too, right?
Hey, that's what I am.
So, ladies and gentlemen, just round of applause, and we bring out Mr. Corey Ortega.
I just want to say I'm super proud of you. I mean, you can see me here. I'm over there in the corner, giddy, watching the show. Like, oh my God, this is amazing. Is everyone else watching what I'm watching? So I'm happy for our success.
I'm happy for our success.
And the gentleman Robert from what was it, Black Cotton with an EN?
Yeah.
Black Cotton. He said something so interesting. He said, we managed to survive, right? And it's true. Like before me, listen, I know I'm black. Like slavery touched down to Dominican Republic before it came to America. I understand that.
And kings touched before slavery.
Yes.
Too. Okay.
But he said, we've managed to survive, and now I'm in the mindset, because I'm older, we'll manage our success. And that just dawned on me. I had to write it down because it was just so damn good.
Manage to survive and now manage our success.
Yeah.
Right. So before we go into all that, why did that resonate?
Because it's funny. I'm 39 years old now, and this is going to sound corny as hell.
Oh, my goodness. You're so old.
Yeah. But there are TV shows and movies that, for me, my brother and I, we're TV buffs. We quote movies all day long. And when the movie Wakanda came out, Black Panther, it hit me. I'm like, oh my God, Black excellence. Look at this. This is what it would be if it existed in its own country, in its own state, answering to no one. And then I was talking to my wife. I'm like, to me, my first like Wakanda moment was, and unfortunate for Bill Cosby, the Huxtables. It was my Wakanda where I saw a family that had everything. They had everything a white person had. They worked hard for it. They apologized to no one for it. They walked in the room knowing they belonged there. I didn't experience that. I feel that now. I could walk into any room, Wall Street, a board, a 500 Fortune company, and I know I belong there because I have experience. I've worked hard, but it wasn't always the fact. And then my wife said, for her, it was the Jeffersons, right? No, these are the conversations.
You guys are dating us, right? I'm listening to it. I'm like, oh yeah.
Because my wife, she's Jamaican, Haitian. I'm Dominican American. We have a lot of relatable moments, but different lanes within the same highway.
Mm-hmm.
So when I see that now, when I walk into places, and it goes back to Robert. Yeah, he's right. We've managed to survive for a long time, and now tying it back to election, why things are important. We'll manage our success. And what does that mean? We'll vote. The power of the vote. And I remember when I was younger, I think high school, maybe first year of college, P. Diddy. I was a big Bad Boys fan back in the day. He had this, get out the vote. I forgot he had like a whole marketing campaign to try to explain to the youth why it's so important. I didn't understand why it was so important. Now that I'm older, I know how government works. Yeah, that vote unleashes billions, as the youth say, billions in money to communities that look like ours.
So you coming from a space where you worked in city government, you executed legislative and budget agendas. Mm-hmm. So you kind of know where the dollars went, how they were formed and where they went, right? Mm-hmm. So you can. This is very important that you speak to this, and I know you also have a very strong love for the veteran population too. So this intergovernmental, intergenerational type thinking that we're talking about, of how it's important that politics should be within us from the womb to the tomb. I mean, I just always say that. I got that from one of my people that I worked with, C. Virginia Fields. And she used to say politics is like womb to the tomb. So that being said, let's talk a little bit about New York State and what's happening here in politics. And let's get your thoughts on it. We have a gubernatorial race this year. And pretty much all lines are on that, as well as our local midterm elections in New York. New York is usually a blue state, and it's usually known for we gonna always be blue, right? So why does this feel like we're doing a little struggle right now in this whole time period?
And this
is that right? Am I feeling that?
No, you're feeling it. And here's the thing. I was watching, again, my brother and I are movie buffs. I was watching this show called Yellowstone with Kevin Costner.
Oh my goodness!
I love me some Kevin
Costner. I watch Yellowstone.
Oh my God! So you know where I'm going.
Oh my goodness! I watch.
If Kevin Costner
I don't know if anybody watches
that movie through this door, I'm gonna geek out.
So, I think me too.
In the movie,
I love that show.
His son is gonna run for attorney general.
Sure is.
With the governor.
That's right.
And just before,
don't tell the.
Hey, listen, get the subscription then.
Right.
Just before walking into the governor's office for a political meeting, which you shouldn't do, but it happens.
Right.
The governor said, listen, to be an elected official, you need honor, respect, ethics, morality. But to run a campaign, you need none of those things.
None of those things to run. Right.
And the truth of the matter is, because I'm an organizer, a campaign now, I guess professional, because I've been in it so long, and in government relations, campaigns aren't won by the best candidate. The best candidates, more often than not, lose.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's who has the best campaign
message out.
To get your message out. And that is what resonates. So we see, Lee Zeldin and Kathy Hochul, and I'm not gonna lie to you, about 2 weeks ago, I was worried. I'm like, man, I don't see what I'm used to seeing is a mobilization, boots on the ground,
events
making a lot of noise. And it started about a week ago. And I'm happy because now the polls are changing. You're starting to see that Kathy Hochul is winning, but the message. And Lee Zeldin, he's running on public safety. And I'm not going to lie to you, that's a good message for him.
That's a big deal.
Because that hits. Regardless of your party, black or brown.
New York is a quality of life state. New York is a quality, especially the city.
And, I pick up my wife from work whenever I can. If I'm in the field or, she'll text me and she'll say, hey, you're around. I'm like, what do you want? And I want to ride. I'm like, okay, you cooking? Let's order out. So, and it's a good message, but here's what
the message is: you need to pick her up.
Yeah. I can't pick her up tonight. I'm here, babe. Sorry. Okay. But the message for Democrats, right? And I'm going to talk about nonprofit organizations. Oh, and I'm going to link into MUTHONI. She said something very important. I'm going to link into it. I wrote a little note. Is that there's so much more to lose. Lee Zeldin can say public safety. That's it, though. Kathy Hochul say money for the state, protect our right, women's right to choose. There's literally a litany of lists, and this is where I'm going to tap into nonprofit organizations and MUTHONI, who said focus on what's important to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is something I learned about the veterans. Veterans, their political needles all over the place. They go issue based. This is what I've learned. This is my humble opinion and my years of experience. And for me, and this is a conversation I had a week ago or two with a good friend from the state Senate. He said, Corey, you know, if Lee Zeldin wins, he can repeal the rent stabilization laws of 1973. I live in a rent stabilized apartment. Mm-hmm. And now me, I know government. I'm like, hey, what are you talking about? Wait a minute.
And then you think about it.
Wait, whoa. And he's like, yeah, don't forget that the governor writes the budget. It's different from the New York City mayor. They write the budget, whoever is in office, and they give it to the state legislature, and the legislature has to vote it up or down, and then negotiations between. But if the governor wanted to be cute, and shout out to David Patterson because he came up with this strategy, and I don't know how it came about, but I'm gonna Google it.
Don't give him more strategies, but go ahead.
No, it's known already.
Okay.
Where the governor can literally write in one line, repeal rent stabilization law of 1973. I think it's probably a bit older, and force it, jam it through the state legislature's throat. And if they don't vote on it, government will shut down. And then if you want to do extender bills to keep it going, he could chip away at certain things. The reason I bring this up because what MUTHONI said, when you focus on what's important to you, that's hella important to me. Mm-hmm. I live in a rent stabilized apartment that's been in my family for over 50 years. Mm-hmm. My wife and I, by the grace of God and the hard work of my parents, are able to save so we could buy a home, a condo, a co-op, whatever. You know, we got to have a lot of those conversations, her and I. But we're able to do that because we live in a rent stabilized. I pay $485 for a 2-bedroom apartment, renovated, because my mom renovated.
That's right.
That's a blessing.
Absolutely. And
I don't want to lose that. So the messaging should have, and I don't consult for HOCO, I don't consult for these folks, I get to speak freely. Mm-hmm. The message should have been and do some constituent outreach to these nonprofit organizations and say, hey, I get it, you know, don't get political, but maybe put a message out there in your private time that if you care for tenants right, then you care for Kathy Hochul. Mm. Because then if you live in this apartment, you want to stay there. If I lose my rent stabilized status, that means the rent increases are going to go through the roof.
Yeah, it won't be a guide for that or
there's
a cap.
No guide. There's the market.
Yeah.
And God bless the free hand of the market, but that's not what I care about right now. I care about my family and where I live. Because guess what? If I don't have that roof over my head, can we afford it? Yeah. Will it be a struggle? Also.
Sure.
But this is how I choose to manage my success by empowering myself through a vote. And then I tell my brother, I tell my brother's wife, I tell my aunt, my uncle, hey, don't forget to vote.
Don't forget to vote.
Don't forget to vote. So
telling my sons, newly just being able to vote, the importance of remembering to come out and vote. So on the ballot, you know, usually at times, you know, if you're just tuning in to Phoenix Soul, this is Yaz Hurston, and our number to call us is 929-560-9646. And we have Corey Ortega, and he will be talking to us. He's talking to us about local politics. And why don't you tell us a little bit about the company you represent?
Yeah, no, I work for HCQ Consulting. The firm is broken up in two halves. The political side campaign, the advocacy campaign, the digital, everything that's, you know, on the internet. Mm-hmm. And then there's the government relations side where I work with nonprofit organizations and different entities to execute their either legislative, budgetary, or just overall policy goals. And that's the makeup of the firm.
So you being in this position, I'm sure you have an opportunity to collaborate with many entities, and I'm very happy to hear that. One of the issues that always comes up is, besides the people that you vote for on a ballot, there's always these ballot questions, right? Or these like ballot initiatives or measures, like, and things are changed drastically on these ballot measures because no one just flips it over and reads it and says yes or no.
I was surprised with ranked choice voting.
Oh my goodness.
It did pass. Someone read that, and it wasn't these aren't short.
But I don't think the majority, but I think that one, because it was going to happen and more people had to vote no for that. Mm-hmm. That was That was a little smart thing they did.
Hey,
I have my
someone
thoughts.
did their job.
I have my thoughts on that.
We all do.
So tell us. There's three ballot questions. Can you tell us a little bit about what they mean if you vote yes or no?
Yeah, so I'm gonna read off my notes because I can't.
You
remember
wrote
the
notes.
word.
That's fine.
Of course.
Yeah.
So the first measure adds a statement of value to create the charter's first preamble, guiding city government to reimagine our foundations, structures, institutions, and laws, and remedy past and continuing harms. Now,
So that's just an equitable city for all charter preamble. That's the one. Okay.
Yeah. But here's the thing. So remember, right? Manage our success.
Right.
I'm down for that. Why? Because from my lived experiences, I know that there is a need to rebalance services, city government. Hell, I'll give you an example. My mother, there was a time where she had to go on public assistance on welfare. I think I was 14. I think I just started high school, and I went with her to the public assistance center, to the welfare center. Right, they're two titles, street speak, and just professional. And she was spoken down to so disrespectfully. Now, mind you, I'm like a young kid, 14, and I don't talk to my mom like that. Damn it, if someone else is gonna, I never met before. And at one point, I was gonna get up, and my mom held me down, and I told this man, "You gonna let her disrespect you like that? You have a master's degree. You worked your butt off." Did I say what are the rules here?
You said butt, so
did I say ass?
You don't need to say that.
Okay, you worked your butt off to get here, and times are hard. Great. She went on public assistance. When she got back on her feet, she said, "Thank you so much." I'm chubby. I am 275 stocky because of that EBT card.
I'm sure.
God bless that EBT card.
Be clear on that,
because it was there for us.
Sometimes you got to be humble to get what you need.
So you ask yourself, and every black and brown person that's ever dealt with government has had an experience where the cards are stacked against them because of an error. Your case gets closed because you didn't show up to court one day because the paper, the notice was never properly executed, and now you have an eviction notice, a warrant from the marshal, and you go to your elected official. If the system worked, you wouldn't go to your elected official and say, "Hey, I need help." The tape, cut the red tape. No, it's beyond that. The red tape is strangling me. I need help. So how do you expect these changes to happen? You're not going to light a candle and pray it away. You need systemic change, because if the system again was working, you wouldn't have a need to pray. So this is how you change the system.
So that's the first ballot question. So the second one is the Racial Equity Office Commission and Plans Amendment. Tell us about that.
So this is basically, it leads to the first one, where there is an office to make sure oversight over all these city agencies to make sure they're rebalancing inequality. So it could be equal. This is what it's all about, rebalancing inequalities and making sure that black and brown folk have the same treatment, access, resources as everyone else.
So a yes vote for the listening audience supports this amendment to create an office of racial equity, and a chief equity officer, establish a commission of racial equity, and require the city government and city agencies to produce racial equity plans every 2 years. So a vote for that supports that. A vote no opposes the amendment, thus not creating the office at all. So thank you for that. And the last question for the city is the true cost of living measure amendment.
Yeah, you're gonna get pushback on every side for this one. So, so it's private sector versus society, and society will say, federal guidelines for poverty, $26,000 does not fall under the poverty guidelines for a family of 4. When you do the math, that's BS. You're struggling. This is basically saying, all right, we're gonna analyze data and statistically speak it into existence that we need to pay more than 15. The flip side, and I don't have a client in this, so I'm just going to speak my mind. When I do, I won't. The flip side on that is, can the private sector absorb that? Do they have it to begin with? And what's going to happen is, businesses are either going to manage to survive and thrive or not, and that's just how it's going to play out. But inflation is high. I saw a video.
It really is.
I watch IG at nighttime. I love IG. God bless all the young kids. I just get a kick out of watching the videos.
It is very entertaining.
It is.
However.
And however, I saw a video and it was like, it was a hood video. It was just very urban, very, very local. And the person went to the bodega. And he's like, hey, let me get a bacon, egg, and cheese. I'm like, all right, how much is that? I think the person said $6.50. $6.50? $6.50? This has been $3 for like ever. What do you mean $6.50? Inflation, bro. That's an example. And that's just like the most basic of examples. Colgate, toilet paper.
That's real.
What else? Tide that my wife and I buy. We
These
try
are real
to
measures. These are real issues.
Those baskets of goods cost more. And wait, where are we going? The $15 an hour. And
the cost of living.
The cost of living. So if inflation is up, but the pay is not, then you're always struggling. So there has to be a balance there. And I don't know what that number is because I don't have the statistical data, but this measure would allow professionals in government to give you that number. And then they'll have hearings, feedback. When I was younger, I didn't care for a hearing. Now I know how important that is.
So a yes vote to our listening audience supports this amendment to create an index called the True Cost of Living Measure and have the city government report the cost each year. And a no vote opposes this amendment, thus not creating the true cost of living measure. So for the city ones, I just want to say for those listening from the city, the Justice and Equitable City for All Charter Preamble, that just pretty much puts that language before it. The second is creating a racial equity office, yay or nay, that's your choice. And then the last one, establishing a true cost of living measure. Now, I wanted to ask you about the other one that's the on the state one. Just everyone is getting this on the state. And this is a bond issue on the ballot.
Read that one to me.
Sure. And that would issue $4.2 billion in general obligation bonds for projects related to the environment, natural resources. That doesn't sound like a bad thing. Water infrastructure and climate change mitigation. Why would somebody not want that? So if we
let me see who would be against that. Someone fiscal.
Well, just money. Yeah, just somebody who doesn't want to spend the money. But this is another bond. This is another proposal. It's proposal 1 on the ballot, and it's the subject is bonds, and it's about issuing $4.2 billion in general obligation bonds for projects related to the environment, natural resources, water infrastructure, and climate change mitigation. I don't know. I mean, it might be a little important. I mean, here we are today walking around in a t-shirt,
November.
Right? In t-shirt in November, and somebody's giving me a hoodie. I wish they could just give me a t-shirt because it's like this is crazy. It's just so much like this weather is just football season. We should be like kind of wearing gloves right now.
I would go to more football games.
All right, I would go to more football games. Right. But this is just crazy the way this weather is. So, I mean, I think this is a good thing because we need somebody to just tell us what is happening. Is this money that's needed for this?
Yeah, but let me tell you this, right? When I was in college, I studied finance, and that's when I learned about Warren Buffett. If I had to treat New York City as a business, I would bet all the marbles. Mm-hmm. New York City is Mecca of the financial institution. Robert, do I get an amen on that? Absolutely. Thank you. We will. No, he knows what he's talking about. He mentioned Western, right? But Brooks Brothers.
I got it.
Right? New York will be all right. Yes, we will have our lows, but we will have our highs. And I believe that New York will be attractive for investors to purchase these bonds, knowing that they will receive a interest payout, and they will receive their principal at the X amount of years. That's part of the bond. And New York will. We're already rebounding our taxes. Tax revenues are replenishing at a slow rate, but getting there. The federal government is supplementing our expenses and budget because they know that we, like many other states in the United States, took the holy hit from COVID. Mm-hmm. And I believe that it's government's responsibility to rebalance things when something that's totally out of our control. And this would be it. This has to address these issues and then say, okay, What are we going to do? So the easy part is the study. It's always easy to identify the issues. It's hard to carve out the money. The budget is what is it? A box of pizza with 10 slices, and you can only give but so much. So whoever makes the most noise, right? That's saying the squeaky wheel gets the oil, will be prioritized. This is saying we may not have the money in the budget now. Let's issue a bond and let's get to work. And I believe that's a good idea. I would love to hear the counter argument to that.
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out, but I've been getting calls. Certain nonprofits, WEAC has been making some
Shout out to
credible
WEAC.
shout out to them for calling people to talk about that. You know, I also want to you raise a good point about New York. New York is known for, you know, at the end of the day, there'll be a lot of encouragement and attraction for investors. But you know what? There's talk that New York is a tale of two cities. There's some people that are just making it, and some people that are just not. And how do we find that balance, or how do we get? Because it's either black or white. There's no gray there, right? Literally speaking. And
No,
so
you're right.
how are you handling? How are we handling that on a political platform?
So it's always going to be a tale of two cities until we have true equality. That's it. Period. Like
We shall overcome, huh?
yeah, but that's it, right? That's why that saying, God, it has to be as old. I can maybe remember hearing it the first time in the '90s. I'm sure it comes from the '60s or even before that.
Civil rights movement, yeah.
Yeah,
But I mean,
to answer
but
your
I'm
question,
just yeah.
right? You have to choose the right elected officials that make these decisions, and it goes back to Muthoni. What matters to you? If you care about housing, if you care about small business, who makes the decision for small businesses? It's going to be a combination of the mayor and city council. Then who sits on that committee? Focus on that city council member. Are they working hard for you? Are you making your concerns known? Are you advocating? Because if you do nothing, expect nothing.
Mm.
I can't stay at home and say, I wonder how the rent's going to get paid. No, I got to go out. I got to work. So how am I going to make sure that my small business is going to survive? Yeah, use all the resources that government has. Small business services, they have a ton of resources. But how do you add to that? How do you form policy and budgetary assistance, subsidies for your small business? Well, that's legislation. That's called the budget. The budget is passed through legislation. So
I find that there are extremes here, and you know, before we close out, I want to say that you know we've worked with different types of people in this whole canvas of politics, right? So in creating the colors, there's extreme Democrats, there's like you know moderate Democrats, and this is all in New York. We're seeing a change where people are running on issues, and less people are running on how to govern, right? And so how do we find that balance of people running on issues and good organizers, but then they get into a place when it's time to govern, and like communities are just not being represented. You know, they're at a loss. How is the budget addressing that when we're bringing resources back into these communities that may not have the right representation?
unfortunately, the onus is on the voter, on the constituent. Because if there's no checks and balances, if I've heard this saying at least a million times, I'd be a millionaire. You got to hold me accountable, hold my feet to the fire. They say that knowing damn well people are not. We have busy lives. You got to go to work. You got to set up for the DJ setup. You got to set up for this TV show, for this radio show. I will forget to, oh my God, there's a hearing. I should go to that hearing. Life gets in the way. That's why you have, advocacy organizations and special interests. The tale of two cities really comes down to the tale of two advocacies, the tales of two special interests. Who will push that message? And organizations like WEAC, other organizations will push that, remind you, stay on top of you, almost annoyingly, but you have to. Otherwise, it'll fall by the wayside, and then you won't get the budget that you were looking for. You'll get a budget. It won't be your budget. It won't address your needs unless someone organizes around it. And that's where firms like mine come in. You'll have a nonprofit organization, and say, hey, Corey, HCQ, I want to push this message. I want a public public relations campaign. I want a legislative strategy, and then I need digital content to push out.
Right.
Those three have to work together so that when you speak to that council member who's the sponsor in the bill, you give them strength and cover. When you speak to the other council members that may not agree with you, try to, and this is more on like ultra political lobbyists, right? Like I'm a registered lobbyist, to go in and turn that elected official's life around. You don't walk into an elected official saying, I hope you can help me. No, you go through the CFB records, you go through the Board of Election records and see who gave them money. Pastor Roy gave him money. Sister Mary something from the block. And you'll know if it's a high dollar amount, $2,500, where do they work? Have a conversation. If you see a lot of smaller donations, Google them. Find out if they're a community leader. Have meetings with them and say, hey, do you care about this? Yeah, I care about this. Oh, I was thinking about camera. What a coincidence, right? And then you have them walk in the room with you.
Mm-hmm.
When an elected official gets a call from a high dollar donor or from an important community leader that moves votes like the Hasidic community, they'll pick up the phone and say, oh, hey, yeah, you can't say no that easily.
It's true.
And now you have their attention. You got to flip that, and you got to do that 36 times to get it out of committee, and then you need to do it 39 times to pass it in city council.
For all the different members.
Yeah.
So Puerto Rico is having a conference this week. Somos
el futuro.
Somos el futuro. We are the future.
Yeah,
right?
literally.
And so literally. And Puerto Rico also had some issues recently based upon
they got rocked.
Well, I just want to say they're still there, God willing, and I'm so glad that you're able to still have a conference there. But tell us what's going on, like in Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic and Haiti. I mean, and Cuba. I mean, there's that whole
there's not a shortage of needs assessments for.
So what do we do? But for Puerto Rico, I know there's a number of folks coming in from these countries that are now looking for housing and work and livelihood, career paths. Just FYI, I know that's happening. But tell me a little bit about Somos and what you're doing there and how you're going to work with the communities in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, so Somos is a conference attended by damn near 98% of every elected official from New York City and New York State. And they have conversations. They have political conversations. They have budgetary conversations. And and let me back it up one, right? So on September 27th, myself, another government relations firm, we teamed up together to do a off-the-cuff fundraiser for Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic. We saw the need, we're community organizers. We got the news on Monday. Okay, I was going to do an event. My firm was going to do a cigar event in Puerto Rico. I smoke cigars. Mind you, this is Fiona that hit Puerto Rico? Pre-Fiona. We were going to do a cigar event.
No, I want to say Ian.
Was it Ian? Fiona was the one 10 years ago?
Yeah.
The hurricane.
The hurricane.
There we go.
Right.
Pre-hurricane, we had a staff meeting on Monday. The news just broke. And my colleague Ryan Adams said, you know what? Let's not do that event. Let's do a fundraiser for them instead. All right, cool. Same principle, cigars here. Then we said, all right, let's make it, food, drinks. Let's not go too heavy on cigars so we could have people. And it was supposed to be a small event. And it ballooned into, God, I forgot the number, 100 plus, 100 something
awesome.
plus people.
Mm-hmm.
We had the mayor, the speaker, we had other elected officials, 3 borough presidents, a lot of other folk. And we raised $19,500 after in-kind donations, about $15,200.
Okay.
That's not a lot of money, but damn it, we raised that
by last minute.
Yeah, we raised it in a week. Yeah. And we gave it all to Somos so that they can then give it to the community. And what Somos did, and to answer your question, they have days of service. Mm-hmm. And usually the days of service has always been, we go, paint a house, build something.
Okay.
Now, this is Service Plus now, right? They're going to go in and they're going to do a packing party. They're with the monies that are meager but yet humble $19,000 or $15,000 plus sponsors out the wazoo. They're buying materials from Puerto Rico to give out to Puerto Ricans, to nonprofit organizations that will take it literally to the mountains with supplies that people actually need.
What was the impact? Like as of today, what is the general overall impact? Do you know?
I haven't been boots on the ground. I'm going on Wednesday. But
Okay.
from what I told, a certain part of the island is fine. The other side got rocked. And that's where all the needs are. And you have organizations like Team Rubicon that are out there literally building houses. You have union trade labor, shout out to Union Strong, out there not partying, not drinking, just rolling up their sleeve. And this is what makes me believe in humanity. Every time there's a cataclysmic event, people will go out of their way to help. When New York, when we had 9/11,
No, it
people
kicks
showed up
in.
in droves.
It kicks in.
It's I don't know what
It's
it
just-
is.
it's
Mind
in
you, it's not a natural
It is natural.
of instinct because you're very self. You take care of yours, but when humanity as a whole takes a hit, you say, "What can I do?" So you give a bottle of water, you give $10, but those monies multiply once aggregated.
So you doing Somos happens, and then you're able to. Everybody's coming there to do a packing party. Is that?
That's one. The other thing that we're doing, we're hosting an event with the YMCA, the New York City Council's Black, Latino, Asian Caucus. One more. This is going to take a second. The New York State Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, and Asian Caucus to talk about how do we rebuild Puerto Rico. Number one, through community centers, because the YMCA has community centers in Puerto Rico, and then how do we rebuild our own cities? Because here's the thing: while everything else is going on in the world, we also have our brother and our constituents here in New York, and we have a lot of issues to address.
Facts.
So that's the conversation, and there are going to be a lot of elected officials to opine on that from a budgetary and resource standpoint.
That's good to know. We love to hear more about it. Maybe afterwards we can get a little recap. I think it's important to be able to talk about these things on a national level, but on international. But I also want to say that the same issues are plaguing our communities. I was at an event and I was telling Big Al about this. I was at an event during the General Assembly at the time, and it was talking about after COVID, how are we rebuilding Africa, how are we rebuilding the Caribbean, as well as other developing countries. And food security was an issue. But I was like, bruh, I was like, we got food insecurity like in the United States that solely people just don't eat because they don't have access to it for a number of things, public safety, as well as, just the businesses don't want to come in certain communities to provide access to nutritious foods. So I'm just so glad to hear that whatever you're doing, you're taking that from the standpoint of national, because Puerto Rico is still in America, right? But you're also applying that to our local communities. And so what have you been doing? And we're going to close this out, but what have you been doing? Tell a little about what you've been doing on the local front. I've got to give you that. Big shout out to West Harlem, right?
On the local front, right now.
So you just being a national guy, or
no? I'm not a national. I'm not a federal guy. I'm a city and state person.
Okay.
And right now, this project is next, right? What do we do with these? How do we support these YMCA centers in our own communities, and how do we make them also affordable to communities of color?
That's a question. They have to be subsidized, right?
I had a conversation with an official today, and was like, all right, I see there's some issues here that there are price points that our communities can't afford. So how do we address that? And that's the conversation that we can have. And again, that's a budget issue. That's a legislation. And then how do we do this?
Big shout out to Carl Hasty. He did that. He did that in the Baychester area for that Y. He subsidized so families were able to go and be a part of that new Y that's being built. I think it's 229th Street. Big shout out for him being a visionary for that.
I think I saw him like he was like
and working out on it too. But families there should know that they can be subsidized if they live in that community. And more elected should probably do something like that or see how it can be done.
Yeah, just because you live in a low income neighborhood doesn't mean you want low income services. No, you want services. And again, government plays a role in that balancing act. And something that I thought
well said.
When you said, take it national, bring it back home, it takes a village, right? When there's a hurricane and a country where we have a large representation here in New York City gets rocked, it's a village of international leaders and countries that come in. New York City alone cannot subsidize Puerto Rico.
Cannot.
Impossible. The state of New York cannot. But together as a nation with other countries, we say we have but so much. This is what we can part with.
Mhm.
We'll help you.
Mhm.
And then we come back home and say, all right, we only have so much. The federal government come in and help us. So,
Well, Corey Ortega,
yes, me.
HZQ Consulting, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been very
Thank
helpful.
you for having me.
I think we learned a lot about what's going on, what to expect tomorrow. Tomorrow is election day. Please exercise your right, vote like your very life depended on it, because it does. Thank you so much for coming on and joining us. Phoenix Soul, you are awesome.
Thank you. You've been awesome.
I'm Yaz Hurston, Phoenix Soul, clarity and connection through conversation. We'll see you next week. DJ Spence, ciao.
In the world in which we live, and we gotta help each man be a better man with the kindness that we give.
Can't you see how I feel, baby? I've never felt this way before. You know what you did to me. Can't you see how I feel? Can't ignore the way I feel about you, baby. I just want you to be mine. Oh, no, waiting for the tender.
This is too fun. Oh, hell yeah. You just speak your mind. It's like,
I know.
you base it on experience. You don't base it on, like, did I read a book on
Did I read a book?
No, I read my life.
You kind of know this stuff. Stuff that people